Hi folks, welcome to the third-party engineering and acquisition of British Armour Group, T.E.A.B.A.G, round 4, the results. In this round of the contest, I asked you to produce an improved infantry tank to replace the Matilda II. Not that any tank could ever replace the Matilda in my heart, but the British Army could really use a better infantry tank gun than the 2-pounder so as to repel Operation Sea Lion. This time, even though entries were limited to 1 per username, we got an unprecedented 30 entries. This triggered my second workload mitigation measure. I recruited assistant judges. For their protection, they shall remain anonymous. They know who they are, and they have put in a huge amount of work behind the scenes to make this the most exhaustively tested and analysed set of designs yet. So, a huge thank you to them, and of course, to all of our entrants. Without your submissions, there is no T.E.A.B.A.G after all. Now, the format of this results video is slightly different from before. To allow for more designs to be showcased per video, the decision was made to give you a brief glimpse of the top 5 in each category before focusing in on the category winner. You may also notice that the overall winner and runner-up do not appear as category winners. This is because the total scores were tallied first, and the resulting winner and runner-up were removed from the pool of entrants before the category winners were selected. Again, this is just to ensure that more of your amazing designs get their moment in the spotlight. Also, I have some announcements to make about the next round, but I've waffled on enough already, so I'll tag those onto the end of the video. Please do stay tuned to the end if you're planning on taking part in the next round of the contest. So now, without further ado, let us move on to the reason that you are here, the results. And first up, it's the sales pitch category. We're going to catch a quick glimpse of the top 5 before we focus in on the category winner. Ready? Here we go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the sales pitch category winner is the T.E.A.B.A.G. I live in Scotland, and apparently this is a Scottish word, but I've got nothing. T.E.A.B.A.G by Salt Not Sugar. Well now, here is a textbook example of a winning T.E.A.B.A.G sales pitch, if ever there was one. The standout here is probably the pictures. We have an image of the lovely leather-bound wallet that the design presumably arrived in. We have in-game beauty shots. We have this cool blueprint-esque diagram, informative images with Armour values, and some lovely edited period pieces like this poster, this very cool wooden mock-up, and the now classic edit into a period photo. And of course the icing on the cake is David Fletcher. Once you've got David Fletcher in a pitch, there hardly needs to be any more said, right? But that wouldn't be fair to Salt Not Sugar, who also put plenty of effort into making their company, the Scottish Motor Company, feel real and grounded with references to headquarters and factory, their workers and the company logo. It was just a shame we didn't actually learn who was writing to us. So it was as in character as possible without actually giving us a character. There's plenty of depth here, and the salesmanship is very good too. I always appreciate a stats sheet, though it wouldn't hurt to include some more references to what it contains in the main body of the text. But the in-depth score was greatly helped by the focus in on unique features of the vehicle, like the wing mirrors, the underside escape hatch, interior ergonomics, and of course, the mine-clearing rollers, which is the main feature of this design. All in all, a nearly perfect pitch. Lovely work. Now we move on to the aesthetics category. Here comes the top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the aesthetics category winner is the Dreadnought by DXSC 2020. I'm not sure there's even any need to explain why this won. I mean, just look at it. It looks more like it rolled straight from the workbench of an expert Warhammer 40k modeler than anything built in Sprocket. One of my assistant judges said that they just spent 20 minutes gawping at all the details the first time they loaded this design in. That this design has the detail and X-Factor gauges pinned to 10 out of 10 should be obvious to anybody. Beyond that, there's 2 other subcategories measured: era appropriateness and national identity. And it's here that the score is rendered imperfect, as while DXSC 2020 has clearly had these two aspects in mind while designing, and efforts have been made to use British styling elements and period features, there remains the fact that the overall look of this design feels a little too much like it's 38,000 years before its time to get a perfect score in these subcategories. I have no doubt at this point that DXSC is perfectly capable of a perfect aesthetic score, but it's clear here that they were just enjoying themselves with the design, and that's honestly great. I'd so much rather see your original design flair than a bunch of by-the-numbers designs aiming simply to maximise their score. I'd love to tell you how some of this detailing was done, and the obvious answer is with trench tails and fuel drums, but well, I'm pretty well versed in using those myself these days, and I'm still scratching my head over a lot of this. You'll just have to message DXSC 2020 and see if they'll share their secrets. All I can say is, there's a part of me that will be sad when the new design process that 0.113 introduces reaches the stable branch. The ingenuity that this early and limited builder has brought out in the community has been awesome. Our third category is specification criteria, where we see how your design measures up against what was asked for in the specification by the numbers. Here's your top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the winner in this category is the Tank Heavy Experimental Vacation by Albino Creeper. It might look like a little chunky cutie, but the paper stats on this design are no joke, especially the armour protection, which is, of course, weighted highly in an infantry tank contest. While mobility stats were only average, Albino Creeper made the right call in mounting the American M2 gun, which was deemed to be the best in terms of availability at the time, readiness of ammunition supply, and combined the best AP penetration by a hair with well-proven HE rounds for infantry support. Mounted in the Vacation, the gun handling was good, though not exceptional. Ammunition and fuel supplies were abundant, although not best in class. But where this tank truly shines is in armour protection, arguably the single most important feature for an infantry tank. While there were other designs that exceeded its effective armour values in places, the Vacation provided the best all-round protection package on offer, and was one of only 3 designs that proved truly impervious frontally to a Flak 88 gun in live fire testing, which earns it a bonus point. The THE Vacation is the safest place to be on the battlefield in 1940, and would likely retain that position right through until 1945. This combination of the right gun and the best overall arms scheme, with average mobility and good fuel and ammo reserves, makes for a well-rounded infantry tank that is a worthy winner in the specification criteria category. Well done. The fourth and final category is the proving grounds, where the mobility of your designs is graded. Here comes the top 5 for this category.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the best tank on the proving grounds is the GTI-2 Bulldog by Chain Smoking Ninja. The GTI-2 Bulldog hides its mobility under a regular featured and handsome yet otherwise unassuming exterior. Under the hood, however, the GTI-2 lives up to its badge as a sports infantry tank. With top-tier acceleration, trench crossing, suspension tuning and reverse speed, the only place on our standard mobility tests where this design dropped a point was on the hill climb, where it was outperformed by 30-degree climbers. You're watching the Bulldog on mobility trials just now, by the way. A timed lap was also incorporated into the mobility trials this time, but rather than a standard race course, it was a more involved set of manoeuvres aimed to test the practical acceleration, reversing and manoeuvring abilities that would be crucial to survival in a firefight. Here the Bulldog also excelled, posting as a second best lap time overall, beaten out only by Lod the Dead Guy's angry cheese wedge illegitimate offspring of a tank and a Lamborghini. Never change, Lod the Dead Guy, we love what you do. Congratulations Chain Smoking Ninja for making an infantry tank with 5 inches of front protection that is also mobile. This is no mean feat. And now, the time has come to celebrate our overall runner-up. Oh, but wait, one of my assistant judges has just handed me a note. What's this you say? There is no runner-up? What are you talking about? Oh, I see. Are you quite sure? That seems a bit improbable, doesn't it? Please watch the rundown of the top 5 overall scorers while I just double check these results.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, I never. Good people of the Sprocket subreddit, allow me to introduce your joint winners for round 4 of T.E.A.B.A.G. The A78 Castellan by Luminous Lily and the Trident by Clockyard. Presented here together in a delightfully tasteless golden paint job, our share winners can be very proud of their exactly equal total point score of 35.75 out of a possible, though highly improbable, 40. For starters then, it's notable that these two designs offered two of the very best sales pitches in this round of the competition. For the A78 Castellan, Luminous Lily framed what would have been a very good sales pitch on its own as part of a larger narrative that reads like we have just picked up a book and started reading somewhere near the middle. Miss Valkyrie, who won our hearts as a character last round, is now joined by her new chief engineer and a couple of minor characters in arguably the best piece of T.E.A.B.A.G-verse original fiction so far. While this secures top marks for being in character, the story doesn't contribute much more, and the pitch that the chief engineer gives as part of the story must stand on its own, which of course it does. There are plenty of images here, including some nice Photoshop numbers, plenty of depth to the features explained in the design, and the salesmanship is on point too. All that could have been improved for me would have been a proper stats table, because I'm a sucker for those. Meanwhile, Clockyard had been busy visiting his local Armour museum, which precipitates these awesome pictures of his character T.E.A.B.A.G examining a captured 88 gun and the interleaf suspension of a German half-track. This forms the basis for his pitch and the antics within, which you should read for yourself, but to summarise, T.E.A.B.A.G gets a bit carried away and is currently cooling off in MI5 custody. Naturally then, top marks for pictures and for being in character. There's no shortages here in depth or salesmanship either, however. Both of these pitches are difficult to vault, and offer 10 out of 10 for effort too in their own ways. You owe it to yourself to go and read them both on the subreddit. In terms of aesthetics, both designs score well, though the Catalan pulls ahead here temporarily. For expediency, I will quote my assistant judge for these two designs. Of the Valkyrie, they said, a cute little British box of a tank, loving the tiny road wheels, very Churchill-esque. High marks for detail, love the rear-mounted A.A.M.G, the panelling work, the smoke grenades, and the escape hatch. Maybe a bit too cute for a menacing infantry tank, but a good-looking tank nonetheless. Great work with the kill markings on the side too. And all I would add to this personally is that I am starting to really enjoy the design language of Valkyrie Motorworks tanks, and how you can now always pick out the Valkyrie design from a lineup. The main place this tank lost a few half points was for X Factor, it being a relatively conventional looking machine, and national identity, where the real-life designer's American sensibilities still sleep through ever so slightly. Of the Trident, the judge said, a handsome tank, though quite modern looking. Good explanation given, however, for the interleaved road wheels. I love the work on the turret rear to give it that curved look. Interesting engine deck with triple exhausts. Strong British vibes from the Centurion-esque turret. To which all I would add is that this tank does suffer a little in the era appropriateness subcategory, for being basically a late war universal tank prototype, but it manages to mitigate the score losses that would otherwise have been incurred in this category by Clockyard quite literally going out of his way to come up with an in-universe justification for those features in the form of his museum trip. You can't fault the man for effort. In terms of specification criteria exceeded, both designs were strong contenders, but it probably won't come as any surprise to T.E.A.B.A.G followers by now that it is Clockyard's design that comes out on top in this category. Combining lightweight and the resultant excellent top speed of over 23 miles an hour with the highest scoring gun choice, the M2, which has excellent gun handling in this tank. The armour layout is classic early MBT stuff and scores well, though is exceeded by the likes of the Vacation and to a lesser extent by the A78 Castellan. The Castellan is also a solid entry in this category and sets the bar very high for fuel and ammo reserves. The Valkyrie entry has only a slightly above average top speed, but has superb gun handling that is, with the 25-pounder, which was the mid-scoring option as far as cannons went. The Castellan also boasts absurd gun elevation and depression, and has a very solid armour layout. The Vacation, the Castellan, and the Trident form the holy trinity of truly 88-proof designs in our live fire testing. Finally, on the proving grounds, the Castellan managed to make up the ground it lost in specification criteria. With a gearbox tuned for acceleration over top speed, the A78 out-accelerates the Trident going forward and can match it in reverse. Both are capable of beating the 30-degree slope and have perfect trench crossing and suspension tuning, setting the bar for the rest of the competition. But the Castellan outperformed the Trident with its test lap times, and so takes a 2-point lead coming out of this category. What all of that means when added together is that I can't separate these two tanks, and I did try. But at most, all I would be able to do is to dock one subcategory point here or there, and to do that would be to expose these two designs to a higher level of pickiness, which isn't really fair, and would only create a gap of 0.25 between the winner and runner-up, which would make for a far more frustrating conclusion to this contest than simply to say that the two are top equal. So, congratulations to Luminous Lily and to Clockyard for these two exemplary designs. That said, the elephant in the room is, how do we incorporate a joint win into the narrative going forward? Well, worry not. You see, while technically impressive, the Tulof Trident is imposingly bleeding edge stuff, while the Valkyrie Castellan plays it much safer. So, in terms of mass production, it would be out of character for the British Army to select the Trident over the Castellan. This is only compounded by the fact that the head of Tulov Industries, by his own narrative, is currently incarcerated by MI5. So it has been decided that only a limited production run of the Trident be completed, which will be used to equip an elite armoured group which will use its superior top speed to roam the front lines and exploit openings and shore up allied defences, should they grow thin anywhere. Functioning then, in fact, more like the proto-universal tank that it actually is, rather than a true infantry tank like the Castellan. So, now it would normally be time for the honourable mentions, but this time we have a new award to give out. As promised, we will also celebrate the best newcomer. And the highest scoring tank from a new entrant was... it's that word again. The Nucalavi. That one, by Salt Not Sugar. Congratulations, Salt Not Sugar. You win this fabulous best newcomer trophy. We already know that this tank has a very strong sales pitch, being category winner for that and all. As you can see, it's also an aesthetical masterpiece. The amount of time and work that went into creating these mine-clearing arms is staggering, and they look hugely impressive as a result. Easily one of the most visually striking entries this round. Even if we subtract the mine-clearing gear, we still have here a very good-looking tank with plenty of detail. Our aesthetics category judge particularly enjoyed the wing mirrors and the hull bottom mounted escape hatch. This design was just a bit too mid to late war looking, which the mine clearing gear contributes to, sadly, to steal a category win in aesthetics. Mobility on the proving grounds was slightly above average, but suffered a little for suspension tuning and especially hill climbing. As far as specification criteria goes, this design only managed an average score, I'm afraid, resulting from the usual problem with first-time entrants of meeting but not really exceeding the specification criteria very much, which is obviously how you score points in a category called Specification Criteria Exceeded. All in all, though, the Nucalavi scored a highly respectable 31.5 out of 40 and came in 5th overall, so well done, Salt Nut Sugar. I very much look forward to seeing what you come up with in future. And now to the honourable mentions. The honourable mention this round goes to Breadfruit Complex 961 and their RNAH2 design, with all of its special utility variants, including a flame-throwing tank, an armoured recovery vehicle, a semi-submersible variant, a dozer blade and more. Thank you for the extra effort you put in to share these fun variants with us, and a personal thank you from me for your unfailing enthusiasm for my little competitions. Now, before we end, we must talk about the next round of T.E.A.B.A.G. And what I must tell you is that you'll be waiting a while for round 5, about a month in fact. Why? Because it's time to take a detour in time and space. My friends, we are going back to 1917, where we will turn the tide of a different war on the battlefield they call No Tanks Land. It is time for Pre.E.B.A.G. Please note that Pre.E.B.A.G will be held in version 0.1121 and not 0.113, as that has been deemed to be too unstable and inaccessible just yet for a fair contest to be held in. So, see you all back in 1917 for the next video. Take care out there.